We're talking a lot about inflation now and interest rates going up, or what the Fed is going to do. But what is the long-term projection? And before you answer a particular part of that I'm interested in, is why the long-term budget outlook shows relatively steep decline in real GDP growth, real economic growth over that 30-year period.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And it's an important point that's in our long-term budget outlook, is that the fiscal situation is worse, and then the economic situation contributes to that. So there's a sense in which both the numerator, the deficit or the debt, and the denominator, nominal GDP, are both going in a worrisome direction. And so the slowing of GDP growth that you highlight occurs for two reasons. And they're both related to our labor force. One is a slower growth in the labor force. So the increment to the size of our labor force decelerates. And then the productivity of the labor force goes down as well. And that's because of capital accumulation, right? I mean, so just think of the relationship between capital and labor. If you give workers more capital, more tools, give someone a bulldozer instead of a shovel, you will make that worker more productive. And that's obviously one example, but think of that writ large. Because of the large deficits we have, resources are not available for the private sector in the future. That means we have less capital accumulation, and productivity growth of workers goes down. So we have fewer workers, meaning the increment is smaller. The number of workers is still going up. It's just, the increment is smaller, the growth rate is smaller, and then the productivity growth of those workers is slowing as well. And both of those combine to mean slower GDP growth in the future.
And part of that slowing of productivity growth is the large deficits and the need to finance those. Is that correct? There's a connection there?
That's correct. And that's that instance of the crowding out, where the government deficits draw away resources from the private sector and lead to lower capital. And I should also say it's important to understand that what the government does is positive as well, right? This is not CBO's way of saying, oh, therefore the government is always harmful and everything the government does is harmful. And I think we all perfectly well understand that the roads we travel on, the national security provided by our armed services and more, those are all intrinsically government things. Research and development, the role of say the National Institutes of Health and other government agencies that foster research and development, those also boost productivity and contribute to a stronger economy. So this is not a way of saying government bad, period. It's we have less of everything. We have less private sector capital accumulation, and then under current law, the growth of government investment will be slowing as well.